And happy Thursday, July 13th, 2023, and welcome to a very special edition of what I like to call the Isolation Cabin. I am your host, the vegan you believe in, Kurt Cadet, aka Conscious Kurt in the flesh as always, and I have a very special guest today. He is my former co-host of the podcast Spark It Up, and also one of my very best friends of 22 years. Please welcome the egomaniac himself, Rachmani. What's going on?
Wow, I don't know if that was a compliment or a diss, but subliminal shots fired. What's going on, bro? Good to be here. It's an honor. I've been listening to the podcast advently, so it's nice to be on the other side of it. You know what I mean? I'm a big fan of the last couple episodes. Yeah, nice to be here. Thank you for having me here. I mean, I'm technically hosting you.
That is true.
You're hosting me on the podcast, but we're in my apartment, so I'm technically hosting you. How's New York been so far?
So far so good. I definitely got a lot done in these last 3 days. Definitely lived, which is what I've been wanting to do more in my life recently. Hey. And before we start, I just want to say here on the Isolation Cabin, as always, I like to talk about the different the different ways isolation takes on our lives, whether positive or negative, the effects it has on us and our mental health, and what we can all do to have a better handle and understanding of it, to have a better quality of our lives going forward. But now that we have all that out the way, let's get into our main topic of the day. And that main topic is why people are so damn offended by everything. Mm-hmm. You see it on social media, you see it on TV, you see it in the streets every day. People are always looking for a reason to be offended and looking for a reason to cry about their feelings being hurt.
It's definitely a hot topic for sure. I think there's almost like it's almost cool to be offended, you know what I mean? Like there's this agenda where it's like cool to be depressed, cool to be offended, cool to be a victim, cool to be outraged, you know what I'm saying? And people want to keep up with the times and follow suit and follow the crowd and also find what they're offended about so they can all be offended together, you know what I mean? But, it just seems like that's kind of like... And it might be more so on social media and on the news than in everyday life. Like I've been in New York the last 6 months, for the most part, my interaction with people are fucking solid in reality. You know what I mean? It's not all what it looks like on TV and social media. But there's definitely a big fad with being outraged over something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember seeing this meme online a couple years ago where the dad's like talking to the son, and the dad says, "Now son, what do you say in order to get what you want?" And the son responds saying, "I'm offended." Yeah, it's admittedly I was guilty of it myself for a long time, like being offended and being outraged by like every little news story that would come out or every little thing that Donald Trump would say or any of that jazz. But I personally got to the point after a while where I was like, why am I so upset about this? How does this affect my everyday life? And why am I giving this shit more time than I deserve? So once I started asking myself those questions and I got the answers, I was like, you know what? I don't have time for this bullshit anymore. There's a million one better things I could be doing with my time than worrying about what offends me and what this other person's doing that's offensive and why they should be canceled and why they should be erased from society. It's like, look, there's horrible people out there, there's dumbass people out there who say dumbass things that are, offensive and are intended to be offensive, but at the same time, those things are only as powerful as the amount of time and the amount of energy that you give them.
Well, that's the thing about it's who's giving what and, who's affecting who. So, like, if I'm offended, for example, is that someone else's fault for offending me, or is that my fault for being offended? Like, who controls my offendedness, you know what I mean? Like, is that mine? Do I own that? Like, do I control what makes me offended, or do other people get to do it? So, if someone says something and I get offended, is it my fault or their fault? Is it my fault for reacting by being offended, or is it their fault for just living their truth and I don't like it? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I saw this story the other day. This chick posted like this story with like one of those meme type things or whatever, and it was saying about like boundaries, for example, right? So when you said boundaries, setting boundaries in a real healthy way it sounds more like this, like, what's happening here is not to my liking, I'm not comfortable with it, I'm not going to allow it, I'm going to remove myself from this situation. Not, I don't like what you're doing, you have to stop it, you have to remove yourself from the situation, you have to leave, I don't like it. You know what I mean? Boundaries you set for yourself, you don't set them for the world around you. So you can't try to control your environment and tell your environment that this is not okay, and this is okay, and that's offensive. You can control what you subscribe to and how you react to it. So if something is offensive to you, why are you listening to it? Just walk. You don't have you choose how to react. You choose how to interact with the world. If the way you interact back with something you don't like, instead of opening up a conversation and saying, why do you feel that way? Let's get to the bottom of it. I think this way. Instead of having like an intelligent conversation, you're like, I don't like what you said. I'm offended. Wah. Like, all right, so maybe that's on you for being offended. Maybe the world doesn't have to cater to you or censor itself to appease your sensibilities. Maybe you can just ignore the things that you're not strong enough or mature enough to deal with or have a little conversation about. And even having a conversation doesn't mean that you have to walk away in agreement. You can have a conversation and be like, you know what, I still don't see it your way, but thank you for the insight. It's how you got to that conclusion. You know what I mean? And that's it.
That's how I felt about our conversation about mumble rap the other day. I get what you
for that matter.
I get what you were saying, but at the same time, I just can't get down with that shit.
Cool.
And my thing is, like, even with mumble rap and also like somebody like Cardi B and also Fox News, I'm not a fan of any of these things. I don't just subscribe to them, and yeah, they're not my cup of tea. But just because they're not my cup of tea, that doesn't mean I'm gonna start a crusade saying that they should be canceled, they should be removed. Right. Anybody who watches them is a bad person. Anybody who watches them is stupid. Yo, that's not cool, bro. That's not cool.
Or assume that there doesn't mean that, like, Cardi B is super fucking talented. I've been rapping for 20 years. As far as just knowing how to rap and how to record and how to put out music, she's way more fucking talented than me. I might like my content more and my style more, and I think I might be like, equally as creative of a writer. And if I had that team and that budget and that experience and that focus, I might be even able to match or surpass. But I don't even think it's close. She's a way better rapper than me as far as just rapping, like sonically, recording a song, sounding good, you know what I mean? So like, it might not be your cup of tea. Like, you might be looking for something more lyrical or boom bap or underground or rap for rap. I don't know, whatever, I'm just saying, but she's still super fucking talented. So you can say, I don't like it, like that R&B shit you were playing for me, I wasn't feeling it, but I'm not saying that they're not talented. I can't do it. Like, I don't know how to sing like that. I can't make those beats, you know what I mean? So they're still talented, it's just not my cup of tea, and that's fine. It would be ridiculous to assume that everyone's gonna like the same things equally as much.
Exactly. Yeah, everything has an audience. And like, back to the Dave Chappelle special from about a year and a half ago, I remember all the outrage and all the people upset about everything he said and all the jokes, and like demanding that Netflix remove the Netflix special and getting mad at Netflix for broadcasting it. I'm like, yo, get your head out of your ass.
But that's just like party foul behavior. Like, if everyone's
it's little
watching
bitch energy.
Millions of people are streaming it. People are paying top dollar to go see him live, standing in line, wanting to be the first one to buy the ticket, trying to get the best seats. People are having a good time. They're loving it. If you don't like it, just don't go. You don't have to ruin it for everyone else. Like, imagine how ridiculous it is to go to a comedy show and get mad. You're getting mad at a place you're supposed to laugh? What the fuck? And they're the problem, not you? You're clearly in the wrong place or in the wrong state of mind. You set your boundaries. You remove yourself from the building. Don't pay him money to see him tell jokes so you can get mad at him. How about, people who go are happy. He made funny jokes. He's making money. He's happy. People who don't subscribe to his comedy don't go. They're happy. Everybody wins. You know what I'm saying? What's the big deal?
Yeah, that was my whole thing. Like, look, you don't have to like the jokes. You don't have to like the special. That's fine. But if you feel that way, just don't watch it. Just don't give him the time of day. Don't give him the energy. But you do not have the right to tell this person, that person, and the next person that, oh, you shouldn't watch that. Oh, by watching that, you think that transgenders deserve no rights or that you're a bad person. It's like, bro, shut the fuck up already.
Also, like, who made you the spokesperson of transgender? What if I'm transgender and I love Dave Chappelle and you cancel him and I just lost my favorite comedian and he gets me through all my toughest times? Like, did I ask you to speak for me? Are you even transgender? That you're, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, everyone's getting offended in the name of other people. No one asked you to. It's like when the whole Corona shit happened and people were, like, fighting for the old people's rights. Bro, did they ask you to? Did they nominate you to be their spokesperson? If I was an old person, I'd want to enjoy the time I have left, not fucking worrying about vaccines and masks and restrictions and not seeing my family. So it's like, no one asked you to speak for me, right? So, like, Don't be the fuck. You don't have to, just sit down. You don't like it, don't do it. You like it, go do it. Do whatever the fuck you want. But it's up to other people. And like, as a vegan, right? If you want to stand up, if Chris Rock, if you want to see a Louis C.K. show, or Andrew Schultz, whoever your stand-up favorite comedian is, you want to see Dave Chappelle, whatever. If they made a vegan joke, what are you gonna try to cancel it? I would laugh my ass off because I'm very whole with my decision to be vegan, and you can make fun of it all day. It's not gonna change my views on it. I'm still fucking whole with it. I'll just laugh if the joke is funny and keep going to my vegan job and maybe open a vegan spot and make vegan cocktails and vegan food. You know what I'm saying? Like go to the best vegan restaurant. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm gonna still do me. Like I'm still whole with it. So I feel like a lot of times, even in like personal relations, if you like kind of critique someone or kind of get, even from a place of love, even if it's your family, your best friend, if you tell them something that maybe you don't agree with or that's uncomfortable for them to hear, if they get offended, that's kind of like a red flag. That's kind of like a sign that they're self-conscious about what the issue is that you're bringing up. And it fucks with them, it bothers them, and then they lash out because they rather lash out at you for bringing it up and making them uncomfortable than facing the uncomfortable reality and actually getting to the bottom of it and trying to figure out why it's making them feel that way. So like getting offended if is only makes sense if the original and initial and sole intent was to offend. So if I'm saying something just to offend you, then it makes sense to get offended. But if I'm just telling you something and you don't like it and you get offended, that just shows that it probably has some standing, right? Because okay, let's say I'm working 60 hours a week, right? And I'm killing it, I'm at my prime, and you come tell me, you're not good at your job, you're very lazy, you don't work hard. I'm not gonna get offended. I'm gonna laugh in your face. I'm like, bro, I just worked 60 hours a week for the last 6 months. I'm like number one in my field. Like everything is going amazing. I'm at my prime. I feel amazing with what I do. Like I'm not gonna get offended, right? I'm just gonna laugh it off and shrug it off. I'm like, okay, bro, whatever. I'm lazy, sure. But if I'm like, no, I'm not. Fuck you, like that kind of like shows that maybe that was a soft spot. Like maybe I'm subconsciously self-conscious about this. Like maybe there's an actual demon there that I'm not ready to face, you know what I'm saying? So like if you're offended, that's like a little red light going off of like check engine light, like I should explore why this offends me. Maybe I'm not you know what I'm saying? I'm whole with vegans, and you say a vegan joke, it's not gonna offend me. You know what I mean? Makes sense?
Yeah, it wouldn't offend me either, really. Look, I mean, personally, like certain things that Joe Rogan would say on his podcast, for example, like, I'm not a fan of when it comes to veganism. Yeah, I don't fuck with it, but at the same time, I'm not going to start a crusade like asking for his show to be moved from Spotify, or that he's harmful for vegans, or that he's racist and all this other jazz. That specific clip of his podcast, I just won't listen to. I just won't subscribe to. I'll move on to the next thing. And I think the biggest problem with people these days when they decide to be offended or they act offended over every little thing is because, for one, they probably have too much time on their hands and they have no other things like, to do with their lives, and they don't have any other constructive things to do with their lives except for like get offended about something they see online. And for two, a lot of them probably just want to follow the crowd because one person's upset about this thing or another person's upset about this thing, so hey, I should be upset about this thing too.
Yeah, it's
like kind of like with like the overseas stuff that happens. I think like with the Palestine and Israel situation a few years ago, I remember people saying, "Oh, if you're not talking about this issue, then where's your heart? Where's your compassion? It means you don't love the people who are suffering." It's like, yo, maybe they just don't know enough about the situation to comment.
Or maybe there's people suffering all over the world that you're not talking about right now that are suffering equally as much, but it's not in the news. It's not the hot topic right now, so you don't give a fuck about it. Or maybe as soon as this stops trending on social media, you're gonna stop talking about it, even though it's gonna continue. So what happened to your heart? You know what I'm saying? Maybe don't try to virtue signal and tell people how to live their lives. Why don't you care about child labor in China and about the animal holocaust in the food industry? Like, that shit's endless. Like, anyone can play that game. But on the flip side, back to like being offended by something, you know what I mean? It's also like, I invite challenge to my views, right? Like, if I'm trying to censor shit and like hush hush, no questions, isn't that sketchy?
Very.
Like, that's like a red flag, right? So if I'm let's back to that example, let's say veganism, right? I invite any challenge, any question, please test me, bro. So far in my life, no one has ever been able to like stump me or be like, oh, but this, and I was like, I was at a loss for words. I've always had an answer to every single thing. But, maybe one day someone will, and I look forward to that. Like, please, challenge my views, make me think of something I haven't thought of, show me things in a different way, I will respect it. You know what I mean? I might not come away agreeing with it. I might not change my lifestyle. But please, I invite challenge. Please, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no secrets. There's no hush-hush. There's no censorship. It will not offend me. It will only pique my curiosity, make me think about it critically, and I'm going to continue to process the information the way I do and go with my instincts and what I feel is right. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to waste my time getting offended over it. You know what I'm saying? And even shit that you should be offended over, even like people fucking you over, your family, your business partners, friends, you know, like shit that like you should be offended over. Is it really going to get you anywhere? Like sitting there being offended about it, is that going to really help you? Like move out of this or come out on top from this situation, you know what I mean? It's okay to have a natural grieving process and to feel a certain type of way, but you know, at the end of the day, you gotta think like, all right, am I overindulging in this? Like, what is my relationship to this, you know, part of my life or this experience that I went through? Is it becoming like a toxic obsession, and like, you know, or is it just like, okay, you know, I moved on, right? So, you know, I just don't know too many instances where being offended long term and not just like, you know, for a minute, like, oh, I got offended, I shook it off, I moved on with my life. Like being long term offended or outraged about something and just talking about how you're outraged about it. Not talking about, you know, how to solve it or how to like get past it. Just, I'm so outraged, I can't believe this, oh my god. Like, what did anyone gain from hearing how much you're outraged? Did they learn how to fix? Like, you know what I'm saying? Did you just me being offended? Like, that's the story, not how we progress and do better. Just I didn't like this. That's the story. That's the hot take. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and hey, you don't have to like certain things. You don't have to agree with certain things and certain viewpoints. That is absolutely fine, but to start like paragraph-long monologues about why it's so offensive, why it's so bad, and why other people shouldn't subscribe to it either, and like calling out other people for being fans of that set thing, you do not make yourself look good by doing that, and you do not do yourself any favors. And from what I've learned over the years, a part of being offended like that much about, like, especially about things that don't concern you, it shows that you're very self-centered and that you think that everything in some ways is about you, where every little thing somebody says and little thing somebody does, you feel like it's something that they're doing to upset you or do something to target you, and you have to come to that reality where, like, yo, maybe this isn't about me. Maybe this has nothing to do with me. Maybe it's just something that they did in the spur of the moment.
True.
And you just happen to have your feelings hurt by that. And hey, it's fine to have your feelings hurt, but don't think it's that they did it just to come at you and like hurt you. Yeah, they're not thinking about you that much.
Don't
like
make
that.
it about you. Don't make it personal. You know, it's like when people got butthurt from like Trump. Like, why are you making it personal? You know what I mean? Like, but even like just like even in day-to-day interactions. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, maybe that's just their views and it's not about you. Maybe it has nothing. Maybe they're not just doing it to fuck with you or to spite you. Maybe they're just being honest with you. And like I said, if it offends you, maybe you should look in the mirror within yourself, not try to fix them saying it. Try to fix how you feel about it and be like, okay, well, if someone said something to me that caused me to get offended, maybe they were just telling me how they feel and they were being honest with me, which I should appreciate. If it's making me feel offended, maybe I should look in the mirror, like, why is this offending me? Where can I improve where this won't offend me anymore? Oh, maybe I have like not just self-centered, like you said, maybe I'm also self-conscious about something. Like, you know what I mean? And the fact that someone is bringing up something that makes me self-conscious, that's an issue I have to fix within why I'm self-conscious about it. You know what I mean? So if I'm self-centered and self-conscious, it's just self, me. And that's just what being offended sounds like to me. Just like little kids being like, I don't wanna, me. Like, that's what it sounds like. Babyish, it's childish, it's stupid. Like, you know what I mean? Like, once I said, it's cool, it's natural to get offended for the moment, you know what I mean? And shake it off and move on with your life. But to, like, rant about it and try to cancel shit and like make a scene and lash out, like that type of being offended is a little different. You know what I'm saying? We're all guilty of it and everyone's done it before, and sometimes, you know, the reasoning and the circumstances are more legitimate, but sometimes even if they are, is it really helping you, or are you better off just moving on and doing something more productive?
I just got to the point of going back to the Trump thing where I still don't like the dude. I still think the dude sucks, but at the end of the day, is ranting about him and like bitching about how much of a racist he is or how much of a sexist he is really gonna, do me any good or stop him or make other people who support him stop supporting him. It's like, bro, at the end of the day, people are gonna say what they're gonna say and think how they're gonna think, and unfortunately I cannot control that. Even if they are wrong, even if they are assholes about the things they're supporting, I can't control their way of thinking about it. And the only thing I can control is myself and how I think about it, and also how I respond to it. And the way I choose to respond to it is by ignoring it, not giving it the time of day, and moving on with my fucking life. Because like I've said before, that getting offended shit and that worrying about what the next person says and what the next person does and letting it affect your everyday life, that shit is for the birds.
Nah, for sure.
We don't play that shit around here.
But you also gotta think about, like, as a person, as someone who wants to progress in life and transform, I would imagine, and wants to be the best version of themselves and wants to be healthy and have a healthy relationship in life with how they think and how they act, right? Like, you gotta think, like, is that, like, my strategy to just repeat the same basic sentence 80,000 times for 5-6 years? Like, all right, we heard Trump was racist. In the first week, pretty much, even before he was elected in the elections, the whole term, even now, like, we heard, like, is that really, like, your strategy in life, to repeat the same sentence 8 million times for years and years on end, and just, like, that's like, you know what I mean? And that's just one example, but also in life, let's say you're trying to do something, you're trying to accomplish something, just thinking about it and talking about how you're going to do it forever and repeating the same, I need to do this, I will do this. Like, if you just talk about it, you're not doing it. You know what I mean? Like, you're not doing anything. Just saying the same shit over and over again. It might look good on paper. Oh, look, he means well. Oh, look, he knows what he's supposed to do. But are you fucking doing it? You know what I'm saying? Like, where's the strategy in that? And just repeating the same shit over and over again for years. You know what I mean? Like, okay, we heard, we got it, thank you. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and one way I think a lot of us can stop being so offended and all that jazz is stop spending so much damn time on social media. I understand it's not easy to like walk away from it and ignore it sometimes. I know it can be addicting and all that, but spending that much time on it, you are bound to get sucked into some shit that's going to upset you, that's going to rub you the wrong way, that's going to make you sad. Let's say, like, if you hear like somebody's pet dies. Yeah, like when you spend that much time on social media and you see all that kind of shit, it is bound to affect your mood. And when you spend that much time on it and you're reading about shit that upsets you and that, I guess, quote unquote, offends you, then you're going to feel offended all the time. You're going to be upset all the time. And you know how you can resolve that problem? Maybe make yourself less offended? Turn your motherfucking apps off and do something else. Go outside, go for a run, go talk to a friend, go make some food, go do something fun that makes you happy. But scrolling on your screen all day trying to find shit that's offensive and trying to go out of your way to cancel it will not make you happy, will not make you satisfied, and will not bring you fulfillment.
Look, I don't want to straight up demonize social media. I think it can be a wonderful platform. For me, when I do scroll social media, and I'm guilty of being on it too much at times, for sure, even just recently, you know what I mean? I think the main drawback is, like you said, I'm sorry, that you're not doing something more productive, right? So it's like wasting time. Sometimes you get into this, like, habit of, like, just living in fantasy or just wasting a lot of time, not being, like you said, not being productive at the end of the day. Like, the more time you spend on that, the less stuff you spend doing things. However, I don't want to demonize that and saying, like, oh, if you go on social media, you'll get offended. Nah, bro, when I do go on social media, granted, it's not the most productive waste of my time, you know what I'm saying, or the way to use, or like the most efficient way to budget my time and energy, right? Like, I could be doing much better things. But at the end of the day, even if I'm on social media every single minute of every single day for a whole month straight, I'm still not get offended by anything, and I'm not giving any time of day to any of that shit. Doesn't even pop up on my feed because I don't subscribe to it. If I'm, like, researching cocktails now for my job, and every day I'm looking at cocktails, all my feed becomes that. Like, whatever, there's algorithms that see what you engage with and give you more of it. If I'm looking at comic book shit, it's showing me comic book shit. If I'm looking at hot chicks, it's showing me hot chicks. If I'm looking at, like, offensive, outrage, left versus right, demographic bullshit rants, then it's going to show me that all day. So your feed is also a reflection of you and what you subscribe to. If you take someone's social media app and just start scrolling through, it shows you what they're digesting, what they're taking in their social media diet, you know what I mean? So, if it's like friends, in art, in cool events, and things you're passionate about, social media is incredible. Do it. Amazing. Yes, try to be more productive and also present in your day-to-day life, and it's easy to get sucked into it, and there's a lot of drawbacks, and it should be approached in a healthy way. Your relationship with it should be healthy. It is a tight rope to balance, you know what I mean, at times. However, also take accountability. Don't blame the social media. Look at your feed. If your feed is that negative, chances are you need to change some things in your life. You know what I mean?
And also one more thing to remember, like especially when it comes to being online, let's say if like somebody tries to start an argument with you or like tries to fuck with you about your viewpoint. Yeah, the one thing I want to mention is like as far as that goes, don't take the bait. Yeah, because that kind of temptation, like if you don't give into it, you don't give it the time of day, I'm telling you the truth when I say this, you will save yourself so much freaking trouble. Because at the end of the day, a lot of these trolls and a lot of these people you argue with all day, like doing that is not going to get you anywhere, and doing that will not make them think the same way as you. But if you just choose to ignore it and find something else to do with your day and not waste time being so damn offended about everything and every little thing everybody says, then you'll set yourself up for better things, and you'll open up the door for things that will actually improve your life as opposed to poison your life. That's the best way I could put it.
Yeah, like I said, my approach, if I got the time and it's respectful and it's not like becoming people trying to insult each other and degrade each other, and it's it stays respectful, I don't, like I said, I invite the conversation, the discussion. Like, oh, why do you feel that way? I don't know. I think because of this, it doesn't really make sense to me. I view it more this way. Cool, awesome. Blah, blah, blah. Like, it can be respectful. It doesn't, and you don't have to necessarily always walk away. If you got the time and there's room to turn it into a respectful conversation, go for it. Why not? Human interaction is one of the most basic pillars of a healthy lifestyle. You know what I mean? Great. Amazing. But if you see that the other party is not interested in having a normal fucking discourse and a respectful back and forth, then you definitely, you can save yourself the trouble and, take the higher road and be the bigger person. So.
Yeah, sometimes it's just not worth it, and sometimes there's
not just on social media, in real life too.
Yeah,
with
also
family,
that too.
With your friends, with your coworkers, whatever the case may be.
Yeah,
significant other.
Certain people and certain things just don't deserve your attention and don't deserve your time, and the less time you give it, the less power that it has over you.
I just think that being offended is, and this might be controversial, I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but it's an unhealthy sign or a sign of weakness. You know what I mean? In general. And it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. And every person is weak and strong at the same time, and it always fluctuates. It's not like, oh, I'm a strong person, you're a weak person. We're all weak at times, we're all strong at times. It's constantly changing and evolving. It's almost alive. It's never set in stone. You know what I mean? So I'm not trying to say it as like a way to talk shit or belittle anyone. It's part of the human life cycle. It's part of human nature. But those are signs of our weaker side, and those are signs of our less healthy side, like being offended and stuff like that. And like I said, I don't mean it's okay to be offended if someone did something really wrong to you, someone that really almost betrayed your trust. It's okay to be offended at first, you know what I mean? But fool me once, fool me twice, fool me three times. After it's like, if a pattern is established, at the end of the day, you can only blame yourself for entertaining it if you don't do something about it and walk away. And if your only reaction is to sit there and get offended but not change anything about the situation and allow it to continue and to continue, then you really only can be mad at yourself when you're really just wasting your life away and putting yourself to pain. And then you got to take the responsibility over what offends you, and if it's out of your control and it offends you, just remove yourself from it, or see why that's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the best way.
Getting offended is a good warning sign. It's a good, like I said, like a hazard light that comes on, like check engine, and those are good. You need signs because we're all going to slip up eventually. So if you actually, when you get offended, check yourself. It could be a good way of keeping you on your toes, you know what I'm saying? But that's having a healthy relationship with being offended and not like a toxic one.
Yeah, definitely. Like if you are offended for a few minutes, it's understandable, but how long you stay offended and what you do with that feeling of being offended, makes all the difference. So with that being said, I think that wraps up our discussion we had for today. El, thank you for coming on. It was a pleasure.
anytime.
Definitely
I
have
think
you
this
back on soon.
This is actually the first time,
We did it in person together. Yes, it is.
and the first time we did it sober.
Yes.
I think I'm still kind of fucked up from the last couple of days.
I'm not. I went for a run before this, so I'm good. But
yeah, I didn't sleep much the last couple of days.
But in a few more minutes, I will be fucked up, but that's another story. So, to wrap up this discussion, I want to thank you guys for listening to this episode today. And thank you for joining me. You definitely contributed a lot. And also, I just want to say before I go, I'm not a licensed doctor or therapist, but I do have a lot of personal experience in my personal life going through these issues, and I like to use this podcast to help others going through these same issues have an easier time getting over them than I did. And if you ever want to connect with me, talk to me, follow me on my social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Look up my first and last name, Kurt Cadet. And also, if you want to listen to this podcast, listen on Spotify, Spreaker, as well as SoundCloud and YouTube. And also, I will be here for a long time to come talking about this isolation issue, the effect it has on us, and what we can do to have a better handle of it, to have a better quality of our lives in the future. So until next time, for El Rachmani, this is Kurt Cadet for another edition of the Isolation Cabin. And like I said before, and I'll say again, do not be an asshole in real life or social media, because that shit is for the birds. Have a good one, guys.